First of all, I thank the permanent missions of Argentina, Canada, and Paraguay for placing this matter before the Council. And I welcome the update from the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. The information presented to us remains deeply concerning. We note the release of a number of detainees in recent months, including under the amnesty law. But the release of some cannot obscure the continued detention of others, nor reports of new arbitrary arrests in violation of both domestic and international law. Reports indicate that persons remain deprived of liberty for political reasons, that due process concerns persist, and that conditions of detention continue to raise serious human rights questions. Greater transparency is therefore essential. There should be clear and verifiable information on who has been detained, who has been released, and who remains in custody, and on what legal basis. Antigua and Barbuda speaks on this matter from a clear democratic standpoint. In adherence to the highest principles of democracy, which we have always practiced, we have just completed yet another set of free and fair general elections, in which political parties campaigned freely, the media operated freely, citizens spoke openly, and the will of the people was respected. It is from that standpoint that we support the release of all persons arbitrarily detained for political reasons. We also support greater freedom of expression, including for the media, and fuller cooperation with regional and international human rights bodies, including the Inter-American Commission. We are also mindful that Venezuela is not represented in this Council, having chosen to withdraw from the OAS in 2017 at a time when the organization was considering the grave deterioration of democratic governance and human rights in that country. I will not dwell on my country's position on the attempt to impose another representative government on this organization in violation of its rules. That's a discussion for another time. But we also note that despite the events of January 3rd this year, and despite the easing of sanctions against certain persons and state agencies in Venezuela, reports indicate that persons are still being arbitrarily detained. Civic space remains constrained, and a sustainable solution remains elusive. This tells us that releases, amnesties, and changes in political circumstances, while important, are not enough unless they are accompanied by institutional reform, transparency, and guarantees that the practices of the past will not continue. Antigua and Barbuda will support every sincere effort in this organization and by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights that advances those ends, upholds human dignity, and helps the people of Venezuela move toward a more open, just, and democratic future at peace with itself and with its neighbors. Thank you very much.